Our constant use of texting and emailing would not be possible today without the development of Globalization 2.0. The process of Globalization 2.0, as described by Friedman, was largely influenced by the events and concepts that we learned in history this year. Some of the events that were presented to us this year contributed to globalization, such as the Industrial Revolution, nationalism, and imperialism, to name a few, while other occurrences, such as the First and Second World Wars, hindered it. According to Friedman, during Globalization 2.0, the world shrank from medium to small, enabling people around the world to become more interconnected with each other, thus forming the global economy. Globalization 2.0 started around the 1800s and ended approximately at the beginning of the new millennium. The key forces behind this version of globalization were multinational companies. Industrial revolution, nationalism, imperialism, genocide, Cold War, and decolonization all contributed to globalization 2.0, whereas World War I, the interwar period, and World War II hindered it. Globalization 2.0 would not be possible without the development of the Industrial Revolution, nationalism, and imperialism. The Industrial Revolution caused a rift in society which allowed the beginning of a mass production of items and enabled people to travel the world easier, cheaper, and faster. The Industrial Revolution changed the way people thought and gave way to numerous new technologies. Nationalism caused great unity in many countries, which allowed them to spend more time and resources on exploring and interacting with other nations. This produced a surge of new ideas that flourished and wrapped around every aspect of civilization in countries that used to be isolated. The Industrial Revolution and nationalism greatly influenced imperialism. Imperialism led to a great redistribution of people throughout the world that touched every corner of society. It became the starting point for a global economy and allowed for different nationalities to coexist together in one country, in a world that previously had only one nationality per nation. Globalization 2.0 was greatly hindered by the development of the First World War, the interwar period, and World War II. The First World War handicapped the process of a more unified world, with numerous countries taking different sides and fighting against each other during the war. Many died during the war, which left the world devastated. People became skeptical and doubtful of new technologies and nationalism as a whole. According to Friedman, globalization 1.0 and 2.0 were led by countries and their industries, which in turn led into globalization 3.0, which was led by the individuals. The interwar period occurred during the Great Depression and hurt the financial situation of many. The Great Depression discouraged people from competing globally, suspending individuals from different countries to become more interconnected and dependent on each other. It led to a shift in which people relied more on the government, which in turn decreased individualism. World War II created both tensions and divisions between different countries and nationalities. Mistrust and rivalry made people forget about a unified world, which impeded the process of a globalized world. This led to the formation of countries choosing different sides and fighting against each other. Globalization 2.0 was amplified and quickened by the development of genocide, the Cold War, and decolonization. Genocide caused a new form of awareness of the third world countries ruled by dictators which had previously been ignored. It started the realization that nations needed to work together to ensure that people in third world countries lived normal lives without the fear of mass killings, refugee camps, violent regimes, and starvation. During the Cold War, it seemed that Globalization 3.0 was prevented as America and the Soviet Union and their allies constantly disagreed and disputed with each other. However, the Cold War was a tug of war that facilitated the creation of many new technologies without the enormous death toll of regular war. Different countries worked together to prevent an all-out war, which facilitated an almost fully grown world economy in which many nations depended on each other. Decolonization permitted a massive rise in nationalism in many countries that had been previously occupied by foreign powers. It made possible for a more fair distribution of wealth and resources between people and nations. Friedman states that Globalization 2.0 and its global economy began to form as people around the world became more interconnected, which in turn condensed the world from medium to small. Multinational companies were the main force behind this form of globalization, which started around the 1800s and ended in the new millennia. Although Globalization 2.0 was impeded by the First World War, the interwar period, and World War II, it was, however, heightened by the results of the thoughts of the Industrial Revolution, nationalism, imperialism, genocide, the Cold War, and decolonization.